Hello and welcome to Jedi Jingle Maker. This is my YouTube channel where I stream live music. I also record my own original music. I've got several albums that you might be interested in. Got a little bit of it playing in the background now, one of my much more mellow tunes. I also modify the gear you see on the wall behind me. So if you like any of that stuff, please subscribe, like, comment. Always appreciate it. Today, we are going to look at some guitar news. And if we can get up to 10 likes, I'm going to do a little performance of some of my guitar work. Make sure I have the comments up so I can comment as people jump on the stream. Vertical streaming today. That means that I show up in the streams feed, in the shorts feed, which is really cool. Making sure I can see comments as they appear. Pretty soon, we're going to be vertical streaming to several platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, maybe even Facebook. We'll see if we like that. Can't wait to get into the guitar news. We've got some good news and some bad news. I'm streaming to you through a Zoom L8 mixer, very well suited for online streaming. If we play the guitar, I will actually just be playing it through a Spark Mini, which is one of my absolute favorite amplifiers, without any doubt. Okay, yeah, we're all connected. I just keep checking all of the indicators to make sure that's the case. And if you like this kind of stuff, I'd encourage you to let me know. Got a lot of news. Yeah, can you believe it? You can stream to multiple places at once. Seems like everybody knew how to do it before me. It's actually not that hard to do. I think maybe tomorrow night I'll give that a try. Update on my Hunnitap project, my buddy Damon. We are working on a 10-song album. And we've got 5 songs so far. They're all available on the channel. Tonight, after I get off the stream, I'm going to actually make backing tracks, which will prepare us to start streaming those songs live here. So it'll actually be Damon and I on some of these streams. My heart certainly goes out to the people of Los Angeles as they deal with these horrible fires. I sure hope that gets dealt with real fast, but it's horrible how people are losing their homes and so on. I hope they get assistance fast. And one of our favorite guitarists, one of my favorite guitarists at least, is John Bonamassa, who's just an incredible blues guitarist. I think it might be an oversimplification actually to just call him a blues guitarist, if you know who John Bonamassa is. Just got a ton of content online, but John Bonamassa, like many of us, is a guitar collector. And if you collect guitars, I don't need to explain to you why that's so rewarding. It's just, guitar is a beautiful thing. And of course, John Bonamassa being into many types of classic music, is also into classic guitars. So there's a ton of videos online that show his collection, and he talks about his deep knowledge of vintage guitars, and he's got some real gems. Well, according to GuitarWorld.com, in a very recent article, his facility, his house, I suppose, where he keeps the world's largest collections, they say one of the world's largest collection of vintage guitars, is under threat from the LA wildfires. Now, we all know that's way less important than people, and I know some people have lost their life out there, which is far worse than losing all the guitars, one life. But Bonamassa's LA-based home and guitar museum houses is in danger. So that's brutal. He calls it Nerdville, and it's currently under threat for the wildfires that are devastating LA. At the time when the article was written, over 130 individuals had been forced to flee their homes, and at least 5 people had died. According to the report, 2,000 structures, including homes, have been burned. There's probably more now. The surrounding area of the Laurel Canyon and Hollywood Hills near Bonamassa's Nerdville home, also under threat from the blazes. He's been taken to social media, and he said, "It's not my hands anymore. A very hard place as a curator. It's my life. My lifetime of work. I knew this day would come eventually, but just not today. So far, so good tonight, but this situation is very fluid. A major thanks to the firefighters and first responders for giving their all these past few days. Stay safe, Los Angeles. These are uncertain and unprecedented times." And man, if you're familiar with those guitars that he's got, it's inconceivable. Now I'm going to say, I really don't have any classic vintage guitars. I've taken kind of a different approach to collecting than John Bonamassa. I don't nearly have the resources he has, of course. And I think I take a slightly different view of guitars maybe than some collectors, where we're looking to get vintage guitars. I kind of enjoy making my own one-off guitars, and the things I generally tend to do to guitars don't seem to increase their value much, and that's like replacing pickups or upgrading the neck in some way, or tuners or saddles. But he's got things like very classic Les Pauls, old Gibson Vs. I mean, just amazing stuff. Now, in addition to that news, one other thing that jumped out at me was that if you're a Rush fan, like I am, what an amazing band, honestly. Alex Lifeson, who's the Rush guitarist, and Geddy Lee, they're recording their regular jam sessions, says Guitar World. But they remain tight-lipped about what they're using them for. They're revisiting their musical companionship, I suppose. It's good to jam with friends, says Lifeson. As you get older, I need to play once a week. I go to Ged's. It's in the calendar. Keep my fingers moving. Play Rush stuff, new jams. We do record it, but I couldn't even begin to tell you where it'll go. Now that I can relate to. I sure hope they do record some stuff. My big moment with Rush was Moving Pictures, Exit Stage Right. I was getting confused. Exit Stage Left. I forget the name of that album, but yeah, the songs like Tom Sawyer and others had a huge impact on me. And I actually got to go see Rush live as a kid, and it was Alex Lifeson specifically that really really blew me away. We ended up moving up, and I got really close, like probably like 30 feet from Alex, and I was able to see what an incredible guitarist he is. You know, with people like Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, it's easy to be overshadowed, and I think maybe that happened a fair amount. But his guitar work, you know, he's big on applying a lot of chorus to his guitar, and having these kind of soaring open chords. So just the idea that these old dudes are getting together and seeing what they can come up with is kind of motivational to me as a getting older dude myself. Hey, Tyler Shep Shreds, the amazing Tyler Shep Shreds. Hey, David May. Yeah, are you a Rush fan also? Do you like Randy Bachman? I haven't actually listened to a lot of Randy Bachman, to be honest. Love to find out more about it. But I thought that was kind of interesting that Rush is starting to come together again. Now, here's another little thing. Mesa Boogie amps, if you're familiar with Mesa Boogie amps, I'm going to tell you that Tyler Shep Shreds, who's on the stream tonight, he directed me to the current amp of choice that I use, which if you're a amp snob, you will hate this probably, but it's the Spark Mini. I mean, that thing, I just think it sounds like a beast. I asked him, what are you using? And he told me, and I've loved it. I use that plugged into my mixer now pretty much exclusively. It just takes up a little space, and for what I'm doing, it's really more than adequate. And I've been actually getting back into pedals, but the Mesa Boogie is iconic, and the dual rectifier, if you're familiar with the dual rectifier, that is just a legendary amp. They call it in this article hallowed amp head that defined the sound of the 1990s high gain music, and I would say that's completely true. It's championed by a huge array of greats, from the Foo Fighters to Tool to Korn. I mean, what amazing artists. And Mesa Boogie is set to continue its current form of reviving cult classic tube amps. With its announcement, it'll be bringing back the hallowed dual rectifier. Set to drop January 14th, so that's what, 5 days away? So if you're looking to get one, I guess your lucky day is fast arriving. They say it's championed by metal, hard rock, blues rock guitarists like across the decade and beyond. The original dual rectifier was originally intended to cater to guitarists of the late 1980s. That was really when I was a kid and getting into guitars. When I was getting into guitars, it was artists like Eddie Van Halen that just blew my mind. I can remember the first time listening to Van Halen, it was something like a magical out-of-body experience to simply know that kind of sound was possible, and I set to learning every Van Halen song there was, including the amazing Eruption, and there was a real competition between my friends and I to see who could play everything note for note, you know, and I don't think I won that competition, but I had a good little group of musicians that I hung out with and played with, especially some great drummers that really could play all the Led Zeppelin stuff. So a lot of Led Zeppelin, a lot of Van Halen, a lot of Jimi Hendrix. Those are the kinds of influences that really rung the bell for me, and I brought them with me to this day. And as I grew a little bit older, I got into things like, into college, I got into bands like Steely Dan, which I still just love Steely Dan. I find a lot of musicians that feel the same way, to be honest, that they just have this special thing about Steely Dan. All right, let's look at the comments. Oh, Tyler Shep Shred says, how are you? I appreciate you asking, Tyler. Yeah, I'm doing really well, as a matter of fact. Every year, you know, some people will kind of poo-poo the New Year's resolution or say it's a waste of time or everybody makes them and they don't do it. But every year I get a book and I write down exactly the areas that I think I need to improve in, like all the dimensions of wellness. Things like, every dimension of health, basically. And I write down my plan. I try to put measurable goals. And that that goes all the way from managing how much I weigh to stay in my body mass index. Got to take care of your body. If you're not staying in your BMI as you get older, your metabolism slows down. If you don't stay in that BMI, then you increase your health risk into all these chronic diseases. So it's really important to do that if you can. And I found that it's just a matter of exercising and counting your calories, honestly. And I've been doing that, and I've been making great progress. So decided to get down to well within my BMI, which I surf too all the time. I have another channel called Surf All Day, A1A, letters A, number 1, letter A, which has lots of surfing videos of my son, who is an amazing surfer. He competes semi-professionally, and he's a great guy too. But yeah, so I surf, and if I'm not keeping myself in great shape, that's affected. I also had a back injury years ago, and so my back will always be hurting if I don't, and that affects my guitar playing. So really to manage my physical state, my weight is so important to my general well-being. So, and I'm making tremendous progress on that front. I'm really almost there. Another thing is just to drink 2 glasses of water a day. That may seem silly, but so easy to forget to drink 2 glasses of water a day, and you feel so much better if you do. Probably better to drink about 5 or 6 glasses of water a day. Little silly things like brush your teeth twice a day, every day. Get up and exercise for at least 15 minutes a day. Eat healthy foods, eat vegetables every day. I even eat kimchi. Anybody ever had kimchi? It smells like death warmed over, but it is so good for you, probiotics. So all those kinds of things. So to answer your question, I'm doing well, and I'm getting even better. I feel fantastic. I've been practicing on the guitar more. I've been growing my live set. And I've really been enjoying playing online, playing live. It's been super fun. I was wondering how I'd like it. I was very nervous about it at first because it had been a long time since I'd played out. I played out in college in bands for about 4 years, lugging stuff all over to clubs and playing, and then just kind of drifted away from it as I moved down to Florida and surfed all the time. But this live streaming and the performing online has really been something that's filled in something awesome in my life. So, yeah. A big Guess Who fan, says David May. The Guess Who used Garnet amps. Oh, interesting. I'll have to look at those. David May, are you in Canada? No, I'm actually in Florida, but we have a lot of Canadians down here with us. You can always tell the Canadians because they're usually smiling and they're super nice. And the other thing is, if you see people splashing around in the water, having a ton of fun in the ocean in December, it's probably a Canadian. Yeah, I can. We just get such a. I mean, to Floridians who have such thin blood, when you see people in the water, it's like, what are they doing in the water? Aren't they freezing? And you go, oh no, they're not freezing. They're loving it. David May. I have a trainer, Boss, in Yorkville. Nice. Yeah, I actually have 2 Boss katanas that I ended up getting. I use them as powered amps. I thought I would use them for playing out, and I still may use them for playing out. They make great powered speakers, actually, and they're really inexpensive. You can pick them up used now for not that much money. Frank Marino of Mahogany Rush was great. Nice. Friends with Richie Henman, original April Wine drummer. Oh, wow, that's cool. Gotten to know Richie Furray over the years from Buffalo Springfield and Poco. Oh, that's neat. Wow. All right, so yeah, back comes the dual rectifier. I guess if you have the money to get one of those, that could be something to consider. The twin reverb from Fender is one that I've been real curious about. I think Fender makes a number of great amps. When I was in college and playing in bands, I had a Laney 100-watt tube amp head that was one of my favorites for sure. And I also had a Marshall, 100-watt Marshall. And the only thing I really used with those amps besides the amp itself was maybe a flanger pedal, and that was it. And then it was just the natural distortion on the amp and nothing more. I know Eddie Van Halen is known for that. Just go straight into the amp, maybe just a flanger. So that's really kind of where I got my inspiration for going that route. Here's another one. If you're familiar with FRFR, has Headrush changed the future of amp modeler rigs with the tiny $149 FRFR cab? I spent a decent amount of time looking at the Headrush stuff, and I know it's very popular, but the 30-watt FRFR Go offers color-free amping of modelers for just shy of $150. That really is one that I'm curious about. And it says, with the rapid rise of modelers come the increasing need for cabs and speakers that can help project their tone without coloring them in any way. To that end, full range, flat response, aka FRFR speakers, are designed for neutral output, meaning they won't distort or reshape player-dialed tones in modeler amp sims. We've already seen Laney and Devin Townsend produce the world's most powerful FRFR speaker, but Headrush has now taken the polar opposite approach, seemingly inspired by the sheer portability of many market-leading amp modelers, including the Neural DSP, and I'm sure everybody knows about the Neural DSP Quad Cortex if you got a little over $1,000 to grab one of those. The Fender Tone Master Pro, the IK Media Tone X, and the IK Multimedia Tone X1. Headrush just dropped a teeny FRFR speaker that at $149 looks to be one of the smallest and cheapest speakers of its kind. Now let's see if I can lift it without having everything come crashing down. But this little thing, the Spark Mini, like I said, it's a gem, but I can literally take that on the road, take that to a park, take that anywhere, put in backing tracks from my phone and be up and running. And it sounds so big. If you're not playing in a huge area, it sounds so big, you could just go play just about anywhere. There are a couple areas locally where you could go play like in front of a coffee shop or that kind of thing. And I've been considering doing that. And I might do that. The live streams are building up my confidence to do that after all these years, and the practicing and so on has helped. And also writing a portfolio of music, getting 4 or so albums of music out. I wonder if the folks on the stream are familiar with Distrokid. That's a service that I use that distributes the music I make out to all of the music platforms, which means like for Jedi Jingle Maker, you can get all of that stuff on all of the music platforms automatically. As soon as I release it, they just put it out everywhere. And that's been really cool. And I am curious about the Headrush, for sure. It's hard to just have one amp. If you're an AC/DC fan, like I am and was at a very young age, then this next thing I'm going to tell you about is probably of some interest. I just heard an interview with Gene Simmons where he was talking about his first time with the guys from AC/DC. Apparently Kiss, the band Kiss, which was another band that I was big into. I actually had an AM Kiss radio as a kid, and I was a member of the Kiss Army. I was recruited, and I joined the Kiss Army. And Gene Simmons and crew, they had all kinds. They actually went through a disco phase, but the band Kiss itself was kind of like a mentor and guiding light for many of the most significant bands of the 80s. Bands like Iron Maiden, bands like AC/DC, and many others went out on their first tour with Kiss. And Gene Simmons was saying that, AC/DC would just go up there with Bon Scott, who was their singer at the time, and just blow doors, like mind-blowing. And they had come from very meager upbringings. Like, they didn't have much money. They were pretty poor. And I said the first time he took the guys out to a diner in New York City after playing a show, they were there pretty late at night, and Gene apparently told them, order anything you want, and asked the waitress to just make whatever they wanted. And what they asked for was a hot dog and beans. And he said when they went to chew on the hot dog, they chewed on the side of their mouth, and that's because they didn't have any front teeth. So, it's that kind of drive and motivation that you get from really having to overcome adversity that I think makes the intensity that you feel with a band like AC/DC that comes through in their music. And I can tell you the album Back in Black, if you're familiar with that album, Back in Black, when that album came out, man, I had never heard anything like that. I never heard anybody sing like that. I didn't even know that could be a thing. Like, I guess the closest thing I could approximate it to would maybe be like Janis Joplin. That kind of raspy, almost screaming sort of thing, which did appeal to me in some odd way. But when I heard that Back in Black, I felt like I found home. It was incredible. And I guess that's what Kiss saw too. Lucia Sabrina Demaria says, I was in the Kiss Army back in 1975. Yeah, that's about when I was in the Kiss Army. Did you have a Kiss AM radio? What Kiss paraphernalia did you have? I'm very curious about that. I wish I still had my Kiss radio. I listened to Detroit Rock City so many times, I stopped counting, but memorized every single part of it. And of course, you can't do the Detroit Rock City thing without the dan and an and an and an and an and an and an. Oh man, just an amazing, amazing album. And I can remember how disheartened I was when Kiss went to disco. It seemed like a betrayal, honestly, to me at the time, but just shows how silly those thoughts are. I think Kiss, I actually saw at the Florida Theater. The Gene Simmons Band is going to Florida Theater up in Jacksonville this year. I thought, maybe I'll go check that out. Lucia had a belt buckle that had different colors when tilted in the light. Yeah, they had... That's epic. That's epic. That's the kind of thing you put on, you crank the Kiss record, and you bounce on the bed. I can remember doing that to like Barry Manilow songs, Copacabana, and all these other. Go ahead, put a chat comment in there if you've ever listened to something over a 8-track tape, which I sure have many, many times, 8-track tapes. I actually have a record player that has an 8-track tape player in it up in my attic right now. So I believe 8-track tape ready. And thinking back, on that stuff, I always was fascinated by the idea of creating my own music. And I eventually got to the point where I purchased or I got for Christmas or something, I can't remember the details, but I got a Tascam 8, which would actually record music onto a cassette tape. It had a head that would record 8 tracks across a cassette tape, just a normal, we don't have cassettes anymore really, but record cassettes. And I just recorded so much music. And I don't have one of those cassettes. They all are gone. But I just spent a ton of time with the kids I played music with recording that kind of stuff. Now, holy mackerel, I just have FL Studio and I can get whatever I want. But the story about Kiss is that Angus and Malcolm Young's childhood home, and of course Angus Young being the famous guitarist and Malcolm Young being the rhythm guitarist in the band, and brothers, that their childhood home had been demolished despite being on the National Trust Register of Historic Houses. And I believe they're from Australia. But their childhood home, the childhood home of AC/DC, electric guitar heroes Angus and Malcolm, has been demolished. That's kind of sad. Despite the fact that it has been listed as on Australia's National Trust Register of Historic Houses. Yeah. That is just one of those things. I don't know if, for those of you who are a little older, if you've been back to your childhood home to see what it's like and it's just a remnant of what you remembered it to be, or everything seems smaller than it seemed when you lived there. But their childhood home was located in 4 Burleigh Street, Burwood, Sydney. And the property became the Young home when the family moved back in 1965, the same year that the pair's older brother, George Young, released his debut album, The Easy Beats. And it was actually added to the Trust Register in 2013. And the company that did the destruction of the house stressed it was unaware of the building's cultural significance. Well, you can't rebuild it, I suppose, but maybe they will. And they say, we regret that the previous long-term owner did not share this vital part of the property's background with us, says Burwood Square Limited General Manager Leon Comida. Learning about this connection after our plans were already underway shocked us. We are generally sorry for the oversight. So, yeah, goodbye to the past. You know, no matter what you want to hold on to, it's eventually going to slip away. Don't necessarily see that as a negative, in my way of looking at it. Can't use it when you're gone, and I'd rather look forward than look back. Yeah, Lucia had a Zenith quad stereo system with BSR turntable. Yeah, Lucia, have you ever this is one of the things I always enjoyed doing, was to play my records backwards and see if there are any backwards messages. That was a favorite thing to do of my little crew. It was kind of creepy, but seemed so mysterious. I actually still have all of my childhood records. You know, talking about what you have, what you don't have. I still do have those AC/DC albums, and I notice that my kids are really into records. They find it to be super interesting, and they want to listen to them. And say, really, with all the clicks and the scratches and everything, and they love it. So that's kind of cool. I always thought, I'm keeping this stuff because someday my kids will want to see it, and then you realize, well, kids actually do want to see it. I played with Star Wars action figures as a kid. I mean, like crazy played with Star Wars action figures. And I saved all of them, and then I gave them to my kids when they were starting to get old enough to play with stuff like that, and they loved them. Of course, they all got, you know, kind of destroyed and lost and blended in with their toys, which is, to me, beautiful. I wasn't trying to make them some kind of collector's item and sell them. My whole purpose of keeping them was to give them to my kids and hope they liked them and saw some connection to the things I liked, and they absolutely did. And the next thing was the records. Lucia says, yep, didn't work very good, couldn't hear any demons in the record, but it was fun. That's right. yeah, looking for the demon messages, exactly. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had a friend who had a Ouija board, and that was really freaking us out too. Everybody's saying, you know, if you throw it away, you can't throw it away. And one friend said he tried to burn it, and then it came back. So, yeah, we love to do that kind of stuff. Maybe that was our appeal for heavy metal music, honestly, or really the birth of heavy metal music. It's gone so much further now than it ever was back then. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the guitar news world. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm looking at right now in terms of my next things I might get in terms of guitar gear and why. Here's an interesting one. You know, we recently had former President Jimmy Carter had passed away, and a lot of things going on to honor him, I suppose. But it says here that the former president planted an orchard in the 1990s, and at the age of 95, personally cut down a tree for it to be turned into a guitar. Isn't that cool? You know, I think they were like peanut farmers too. And the quote at the top says, "I built him a guitar. It will always remain one of my most cherished life memories." Jimmy Carter planted trees and then harvested the wood. Wouldn't that be cool to harvest the wood of a tree and make your own guitar? I actually have a YouTube channel called Eat Your Backyard where I talk all about my food forest that's right out the window here. It's pretty cold here tonight in Florida, actually, so the mango trees and so on are not loving it. But I have mango trees, papayas, bananas, coconuts, all kinds of stuff. And I can't imagine having a tree that I can make into a guitar. Most of the trees I have are fairly softwood. I have one oak tree, but I've never heard of an oak guitar. I know people have made these, but when I trimmed my oak tree out front, I had a professional come in and trim it because each one of the limbs weighs like 200 pounds, 500 pounds. I mean, you can really get creamed if you try to do it yourself. And so I had them do that, and they had these large pieces. I thought maybe I'll dry one and try to make it into a guitar. My friend has a lot of woodworking equipment, so it could probably help me to do that, but it's so heavy. And one of the things I'm not that crazy about is a super heavy guitar. Yeah, very interesting. All right, let's see what else is going on. Kirk Hammet of Metallica sent Jack White his signature Gibson Les Paul and received the White Stripes legend Wild Fender Triple Caster in return. Wow, that is a star-studded guitar swap. Two artists I like a lot. I'm really a fan of Metallica. That was another band that just blew my mind, and I got to see them play at the Meadowlands, and they were incredible. At the Monsters of Rock, I got to see them play with a number of other incredible bands, but Metallica really took the show. They were just outstanding. But yeah, Kirk Hammett gifted Jack White one of his Gibson Greenie Les Pauls. And if you know about the Greenie Les Paul, there's one that is the Greenie, but I suppose he has several, and he gave him one. That would be cool, to do a guitar trade. I've never done that. But imagine if you could do a guitar trade with Kirk Hammett. To me, Kirk Hammett's amazing. I think he's an amazing performer, but I will say that his solos all seem fairly similar to me. And I think they're good, but I was never really a huge fan of his guitar soloing. I was really much more into the James Hetfield kind of rhythm part of the music, but still really cool. And I think Kirk also surfs, which is interesting to me. Now, if you know who Joe Satriani is, this one might be kind of interesting. Let's see. Joe Satriani talks about the unique challenges of having Yngwie Malmsteen on the G3 tour. Yngwie. I heard Yngwie's got his own line of multivitamins. It's kind of neat. I wonder if I took Yngwie's multivitamins, if I could play like Yngwie. Yeah, Satch has no notes for the Swedish maestro's playing, but found other aspects of his performance a little distracting during their G3 time together. Yngwie Malmsteen is a certified member of the Electric Guitar Elite, but his spot on the prestigious G3 tour in 2003 came with a few unique challenges for co-shredder and show leader Joe Satriani. Malmsteen was brought to the masses in 1983. A guitar player, which sought to unearth the world's next hotshot guitar hero, the game-changing fireworks of his neo-classical debut, Rising Force, then saw his stock skyrocket. And if you know Yngwie Malmsteen's music at all, you know he is modeled his playing after many famous classical violinists. I think, well, you know, several of them. And that neoclassical sound has gone into many bands. I'd say bands like Dragon Force and others, just a huge influence. By 2003, Malmsteen had rightfully earned a spot on the coveted G3 Tour, an event masterminded by Joe Satriani, which has seen its founder lock fretboards with the who's who of guitar players, including Steve Vai. Moment of silence and respect for Steve Vai. Wow. Paul Gilbert, Steve Morris, and John Petrucci, who all three melt guitars. Yeah, Lucia says, we grew up in the same time, grad in 1978. Yeah. Oh, the 70s. Different times, for sure. Oh, John Bonamassa. You mean you and John Bonamassa grew up at the same time, both graduated in 1978. Interesting. Natives of Cape Coral, now in Iowa. Oh, wow. That's a change. change of scenery. Yeah, and they say naturally organizing mega money tours and such big names will come with complications. Robert Fripp had a strange rule for his 2004 appearance, for instance, and Malmsteen's involvement proved to be no exception. They say some guys are really straight ahead, like Eric Johnson, Steve Vai, and myself. We're not demanding, and when it comes to what we need before we head on stage, Satriani says this in the new issue of Classic Rock. And then other performers lead a little more stuff. You have two extremes. Robert Fripp said, no lights on me. I want to sit down and I want to be behind everybody. So it was sort of an on-demand. And of course, Yngwie Malmsteen, I mean, if you invite him, you have to just say, I know what I'm inviting. To Yngwie's credit, he always plays so great and always puts on the Yngwie Malmsteen show, Satch said, before turning his attention to the more problematic side of having him be the star of your show. The only problem I would have is that sometimes he wouldn't pay attention to the other things happening on the stage when his bit was done. He's not used to not being the focus of the show. So as show leader, I just take a deep breath and say, I have to understand that Yngwie is not used to this kind of thing. So we'd be as gentle as possible. And I'd say, when Steve's soloing, don't throw your guitar up in the air next to him because he's got his eyes closed. I don't want him to get hit in the head. Yeah. The challenges of having Yngwie Malmsteen. I think I would live with the challenges too, just to bask in the glow of that kind of talent and virtuosity, really. Okay, now, if you like value guitars like I do, this one might appeal to you. There's an article in here about Harley Benton. And if you're familiar with Harley Benton, they make kind of inexpensive guitars, and they put more branded hardware on them, things like Wilkinson bridges and the like. So a lot of people talk about them. I've played them used in guitar shops, and it wasn't my cup of tea, but I never played a good one. Like I played the ones that they sell for like $150, which $200. But they have more elite guitars that go for like $400 to $500, which I've heard people really rave over and say they're so great. I kind of got into a experiment with Firefly guitars thing. You know, they're so inexpensive and they're pretty good, some of them, and I had a lot of success there. And recently I've been playing around with Jet guitars, and those, holy moly, I love the Jets. The necks are butter. Absolutely fantastic. But YouTube, it says here, YouTuber sets the record straight on Harley Benton guitars and debunks the main misconceptions about the budget-friendly brand. The Thomann-owned brand is renowned for its affordable guitar gear and cheaper alternatives to established models. One thing about ordering a Harley Benton guitar is you've got to order it typically and then wait for a good amount of time for it to get here from overseas, if you're in America, that is, like I am. And you also have to pay for shipping in addition to the cost of the guitar itself, and I don't know exactly how much that is, but you know, the price you see on the page is, you have to calculate in the shipping. So they typically have the roasted necks and all that kind of extra stuff in them, but they say here that Harley Benton has gained a reputation as a champion of budget gear. Owned by the German retail giant Thomann, spelled Thomann, the brand offers cheap alternatives to established models, but the significantly lower price tag has led many in the guitar community to question the authenticity and quality of the instruments. And the skepticism prompted the YouTuber and heavy metal guitarist Maxwell Carlyle, who also happens to have his own Harley Benton signature guitar, so I'm going to claim he's got sort of an interest in promoting them. Not that that would influence him, but you never know. To clear the air about it, he deems two big myths about Harley Benton, and one in particular I'm really sick of. That is, of course, that it is made in China. Carlyle clarifies that while there are some incredibly good guitars that are made in China, his signature guitars are not among them. It says right on the back of the headstock, made in Indonesia. Now, that's a very interesting idea, isn't it? To focus on where a guitar is made. Let's talk about that a little bit. where a guitar is made and how it affects the quality of the instrument. But before we go on, I would encourage you to hit that thumbs up because it just makes me instantly feel so happy. I appreciate it very much. And then the other thing is to leave a comment like Lucina is, and Tyler Shep and all the others. And in addition, if you can give me a sub, well, heck, welcome aboard. That's kind of like we're friends now. And maybe I'll see you back. I've been enjoying expanding my view of the YouTube guitar community, and there's some definite standouts that I have encountered recently. I'm going to mention a couple that I would encourage you to go check out. One is Tyler Shep Shreds. Just inspirational, mind-blowing, super cool kid who is beyond talented. So I would encourage you to go and sub his channel as well and check out what he's doing as soon as you can. You won't regret it. He is something to see. And the other one is Rick Renstrom. If you've seen him, he is an original music artist, and he live streams quite a bit. Absolutely incredible, inspirational guy. Another super cool guy that makes amazing music, and I've really been inspired by him a lot lately. So, and I continue to expand and check out new things. Another one, I ran into another artist who 2 days ago, named Holt Spencer, and he's kind of like a country singer, and I was just blown away by the amount of talent. Now, I haven't been typically that into country music, but I do like it a lot, and I love kind of like folky country music, so it's kind of like a petal of the lotus flower of life is expanding, and I'm starting to get into more country music. Actually, the Hunnitap music, if you want to check out my Hunnitap project, I've got a playlist with the 5 songs we have so far that's on the channel. Go ahead. If you do check it out, leave a comment. Let me know you heard about it here. That would be interesting to me, certainly. But the Hunnitap has a country thread in it, and that's because my buddy Damon also has a country influence, and I really like it. I've always liked things like Leonard Skinner, but man, that Holt Spencer blew my mind. And I actually was on a live stream with him the other night, and I said, hey, would you be willing to sing one of my songs? And I asked him to play this song called Complex Soul, which I wrote about. It's very personally meaningful to me, right from my heart. And actually it was kind of emotionally difficult to write that song, but it was really like a healing process to write it. So it means a lot to me. And when I heard him sing, I thought, oh my, he could sing it so much better than me. Like, this song was maybe written for him to sing it, and he went through and sang parts of it, and it blew my mind. And so I've been going back and checking out his channel. So yeah, so many good artists on YouTube and these other platforms, honestly. I'm looking forward to continuing in this year. That's another one of these goals that I have for this year, which is to expand my reach and expand my community and connectedness with people through music. That's really why I play music. You know, I do music more or less as a hobby, as something that I just deeply love. There's no real reason for me to do it other than I love it. I mean, why do you dance? You know, why do you sing? Why do you play guitar? Well, no reason. You know, you love it and you do it. Why do you walk? Why do you think? Why does your heart beat? You know, it becomes that kind of natural experience for me. And the connectedness with people. And when I was playing in college and playing a lot out, I just was overwhelmed sometimes by the connection that people had, and that people would come up after the show. We'd be playing like a lot of Van Halen, a lot of Led Zeppelin, and I had very long hair at the time, and it kind of had the same sort of style as Eddie Van Halen, and people would come up and just say things to me that would blow my mind, because we spent so much time practicing, kind of band nerds, just practicing and practicing all these songs, and then going out and playing at these parties and these clubs, and people come up and go, you look exactly like, or you play exactly like Eddie Van Halen. I would just be like, what are you talking about? You know, what? I mean, I knew it wasn't necessarily true, but just the fact that it could have that effect on people, it always blew me away. And it really, I think, you know, filled a place in me that was wide open to be filled. But let's talk about where guitars are made. Now, my very first guitar was a 3 single coil miniature scale. It's probably a 24-inch scale guitar that I had to scrape together $100 to go buy at a music store that it was a couple miles from my house, an old like used hole-in-the-wall music store that had like 10 guitars and a bunch of old amps and did music lessons. And they had this one guitar and it was $100. And to get $100 was like seemed impossible. And I told my mother, hey, I really want this guitar. Is there any way you could buy it? And I was immediately told, that's stupid. You don't want to do that. Playing guitar is stupid. Only bad people do that. Rock and roll is bad. You know, all these things. Like, what? What do you mean? I'm really connected to that. So it really blew me away. It really disheartened me, but it immediately motivated me to save up $100. And I saved and I mowed lawns and I got that $100 and I went to that store and I gladly put it down and I got this crapster guitar that I just played every single day through an amp that looked like it was as thick as a book, one of these 5-watt super junky amps that you might see in a guitar package. I mean, probably the worst amp today is 10 times better than this thing, but I played it and played it and played it. And eventually, I saved up enough money to buy myself the guitar of my dreams, which the guitar of my dreams was 100% based on the idea of getting the guitar that Jimi Hendrix played, because I had a giant poster of Jimi Hendrix in my room. I thought Jimi Hendrix was something like a supernatural character that created magical awesome sauce every moment, and I just thought, I still think he is unprecedented in so many ways. He influenced me so much. I'm not trying to say I'm like him or at his level, but he had a huge influence on me. So the idea of having a Fender Stratocaster seemed to me to be the highest accomplishment. And I convinced my mother to drive me to a music store in Philadelphia, and we went in there, and the guitar I could afford was not the Fender USA model, which were more expensive. If I recall the prices, they were well over $1,000 at the time, and that was a lot of money. It's amazing how guitar prices are now, because still guitars are about $1,000 for a decent guitar, a decent name brand guitar. So they haven't really changed that much in price, but in that respect. But I had enough to get a Japanese Fender, which they now call MIJ Fenders, made in Japan, MIJ Fenders. And I got a Japanese Fender. I have a bunch of videos one or two videos on the channel about that guitar. I actually sold it on Reverb as a way of really separating from things. I like that thing of not being attached to the past in ways. I had played it so much, though, that I had actually worn down the tremolo to the point where it was kind of tilted. And I'd broken much of the hardware, but I just played the heck out of it. And I thought about keeping it for good, but I never played it. And to be honest, I'll be completely honest, that my $200 Jet guitar is as good, if not slightly better than that Fender. But it was a solid, great guitar. It sounded great. It played great. It was a great guitar. But I picked up that Japanese Stratocaster, and there was no looking back. And that was my main guitar. Until I got to college and I got what I figured to be the highest level of guitar possible, which was a Kramer Stagemaster neck through guitar. Actually, I think they're ESPs that were actually made in New Jersey. But anyway, I got that guitar, and I played that also. And that was a much more high-quality instrument, honestly. It had a Floyd Rose tremolo on it, so I could do all the Eddie Van Halen stuff on that with no problem. And but at the time, the made in Japan guitars were viewed as like not as good as the American guitars. It was kind of like, you're getting the cheap guitar. The made in Japan guitar, that was like the made in China guitar now. Made in China, really? It was like that same kind of thing. But it was a super high quality instrument, and I knew it, and I loved it, and it seemed to play as well, if not better, than the American guitars that were on the rack. at the time. Now, Japanese guitars are viewed as being one of the highest levels of craftsmanship possible. They make fantastic instruments. In fact, the Schecter guitars that are made in Japan go for well over $2,000. The made in Japan Fenders are considered to be prestigious items, and so on and so forth. And of course, then Fender also has factories in Ensenada, Mexico. The MIM Fenders, which are known to be decent quality, the Player 2 Fenders and so on are known to be excellent guitars. So, but now you see a lot of guitars being made in Indonesia, and I have several Indonesian guitars. I can tell you they are all great. And I also have a couple of made in South Korea guitars. Now those guitars, these are Schecters, but those guitars are really well made in my opinion, and super high value. So, that was really cool to find out that you could get a guitar for a little less money that was really good. And now, having played many guitars that were made in China, I can say really good, But I get the idea of buying stuff that's made in America. I really do. I do. I felt kind of bad not buying the American stuff, honestly, but it's weird how where something is made influences. Like, if it's made here or it's made there, then it really comes down to the quality control and what they're doing in that factory. And I think the way to know is to play it. Matt Torrance, welcome to the stream. Thank you. Matt says, help, I need some advice. Uh-oh. From me? We'll see what we can do. Last night, somebody broke into my apartment. They stole everything and replaced all of it with exact replicas. I like that. Nice. Yeah. Well, my advice would be to just adjust to the new reality that you got there. I think what they're trying to tell you is that it's time to have a fresh start. Yeah, I wonder if anybody on the stream has had their musical stuff stolen. That's a very common experience, actually. I have some stories of my own that I'm going to tell you about. I'll tell you about here in a second, of having musical things stolen from me. Here's the other thing. I've cut myself down to one of these mineral water things, sparkling ice things a day. I realized I was drinking like 3 or 4 of these a day, which isn't good. I got this app called Yuka, Y-U-K-A, that you can scan the barcode on stuff and it'll tell you if there's anything harmful in it. And I beeped that one and it was like, there's like 3 things that are really not so great to be putting in you every day. So I'm trying to just not consume soda, honestly, because that stuff's really soda. It doesn't have sugar in it, but it probably has stuff in it that's far worse. But when I was my college band, I don't recall anything being stolen. But when I was in high school, my drummer had a Tama double bass, tons of toms and cymbals and crazy giant drum set that took us forever to get it up this spiral stairs in the gymnasium at the school I was at. We played at this in the back of where the indoor basketball court was in the school I went to, and they let us use this back area to play. And the funny thing was, her name was Nurse Riley. She was a nurse at the school I was at. I went to a private school, a boarding school, more or less, where I lived there ever since 8th grade. And Nurse Riley would come up and she would just yell at me and say, "You are not going to be able to hear when you're older. This is so bad for your ears," because we would turn up the music so loud. And she's right. I'm sure I suffered a lot of hearing loss there. She was absolutely right. And then she also said, "And your jean jacket makes you look like a hoodlum." She's probably right about that too. But yeah, we played a lot of music, but everybody knew there was a loud drum kit up there. And I had my 100-watt Marshall up there. I didn't keep my guitar up there because I always practiced with that unplugged back in my room or with my small practice amp. But we came back to practice one evening and realized that entire drum set had been stolen. I just couldn't fathom it. I mean, the drummer in my band, he brought to tears, because how are you going to replace it? How are you going to explain it? It was just one of those things. And to think through what it must have taken to move all of that noisy stuff, the cymbals, and unscrew everything and disconnect, and a giant double bass kit like that, and get it down the stairs and into something and take it away. The complicated scheme it must have taken, but yet they pulled it off. Now, what did they leave? They left my 100-watt Marshall amp, which could have easily been picked. It was heavy, but it could have had 2 Celestion speakers in it. Man, I think it was sweet. They could have easily picked it up and just walked down those stairs with it quietly. They left that. Still a mystery to me to this day. But yeah, that's another thing you hear from gigging musicians a lot, which is like, I always thought of, especially some of the places we used to play up in Boston, it was a walk from the van to the place where you're playing, and you had to post somebody at the van and post somebody at where you put the stuff, because if you didn't, it was going to get ripped off for sure. So this idea of having your stuff stolen, I think a pretty common experience for gigging musicians. And, I think most of the gigging musicians are not playing super expensive instruments, maybe for that reason, and also because they probably can't afford it. It's like the doctors and lawyers and stuff that are playing the $5,000 Gibsons. But if you're like a gigging musician, you probably don't have 5,000 musicians to drop on a guitar. You're probably going to get something that's a good solid guitar that is a little less. And that's one of the reasons, despite the fact that it's manufactured outside of the United States, I really, really like the fact that kids can get into playing music at a lower cost. Like, the barrier to entry is lower. I think music is a medicine, honestly, for this world. And I like the fact that kids can get it and learn how to play and, get good at something. I can remember thinking, man, if I could just get really good at one thing, be good at one thing, and then I realized, well, there's about 2 other people in my school that were also trying to be the best at this one thing, which is playing guitar, and we all kind of drove each other to be better and better at it, and constantly trying to be the one that was the best. But yeah, I told you my story about my first guitar, that $100 guitar. That was like climbing Mount Everest to get that thing in my room, and at the time I thought it was, and that was more than I could possibly afford. So the idea that you could go on and maybe get a $150 guitar off of Amazon that plays okay. Maybe you got a buddy that's good with tools and knows how to kind of fix it up and intonate it and kind of get the neck positioned correctly with the truss rod, just basic things. And then you got an instrument that plays well. I'm stoked on that. Super stoked on that. So Harley Benton. Will I order a Harley Benton? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm looking at here in just a moment as my next purchases. And it's not a guitar. I've got a nice little collection of guitars that I like quite a bit. And I'm focusing more on tone now, specifically on the kind of things I need to augment my performances and reproduce the songs that I have written and that I'm playing on my lives. Let's see here. What else is interesting that's going on? Oh, John Mayer, the great John Mayer. John Mayer on why right-handed guitar players were responsible for the eventual creation of the left-handed SE Silver Sky. I've never played a Silver Sky. I am very curious about that. I certainly have enough Stratocaster style guitars, Strat style guitars, but I'm really, really curious about PRS guitars. You always hear such great things about them, and they've got a couple of different lines. They've got the CE ones that are generally around $500 to $700. They've got the SEs, like the Silver Skies and SE, which is a little bit more elite. And then they've got the much higher end models that are, start to get up into $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $8,000, $10,000 guitars. Beautiful wood. There's the Paul Reed Smith wood library, they call it. So they have these premium cuts of wood, and it's a real craftsman's guitar. So you could spend a lot of money on a PRS, but from what I can tell, you can get into a pretty good one for about $1,000. And even I've heard some good reviews of the less expensive one. They've actually put out some bolt-on neck ash body guitars and like sandblasted ash top guitars that I'm interested in. I've never played one though, but there's a guitar store in Daytona Beach, right near, if you know about International Speedway. It's not that far from International Speedway that carries a lot of these PRS guitars, and they actually have some EVH, and they have a number of other brands there. So I plan to go there eventually and check it out. That's not that far from where I live, so I may end up doing that sometime soon. Mayer discusses the making of left-handed version of his best-selling PRS signature guitar. You know what I'm going to do? I wasn't planning on doing this, but I think I will. I'm going to look on Reverb.com and see what currently the best-selling solid body guitars are. We'll see if we can pull that off. Yeah, and here, what do you know? Odd. It says John Mayer's PRS Silver Sky signature guitar and its affordable SE variant may have been Reverb's best-selling electric guitar in 2022 and 2023, but it wasn't until midway through 2024 that the left-handed version of the hugely popular electric guitar was made available. In fact, maple fretboard versions and colorway designed to look like faded band tee arrived sooner than any Southpaw spinoffs. Fortunately for lefties all around the world, PRS finally told them that your voice has been heard, and they released this Silver Sky. Let's see what else he has to say. Oh, yeah, look, there he is. As such, a signature guitar for a right-handed player needs to be exceptional demand for manufacturers to invest in retooling an instrument for a much slimmer market. Yeah, that's probably why the left-handed guitars always cost more. There's a tooling expense to make all of the stuff that it takes to mass produce them. It goes some way to justify the 2-year wait. I really think that the left-handed guitarists have the right-handed guitarist to thank. Says Mayer, addressing that point, because if it weren't for the success of the right-handed guitar models, there would be no left-handed models. So lefties, thank a righty today. That's kind of cool. I never thought of that before. Very interesting. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix, he was a lefty, and he just got a righty and then just turned it over and stringed it backwards. I wondered always if he must have had to do some nut work to get that to all work out. But they say that also influenced the sound that he produced, because the fact of the pickups were oriented backwards too, which clearly influenced the sound. I don't know if that's true, but I certainly find it very interesting as an idea. All right, let's look to see if we got any comments. No new ones. I've got picks lying around everywhere, and they occasionally just slide off the table. Let me see if I can figure out what the best-selling guitars are currently, or of 2024. All right, here we go. All right, in case you didn't know this, Reverb has this kind of information available. You can see what the best-selling guitars are. Best-selling rankings are determined by the total order count. That is, by the actual number of items sold, not by the total price of items sold. So it's how many, not how much money. The lists exclude items that were exclusively for sale on Reverb, like some limited edition runs of pedals, etc. Okay, so we'll do the top 10. Let's do the top 10. The top 10, well, what do you know? Number 10 comes in as the PRE SE Custom 24 fret guitar. Yeah, that's a classic one. Tons of those different models on Sweetwater. The next one is the PRS SE David Grissom Tremolo signature guitar. That's 9. Number 8 is the PRS Silver Sky John Mayer signature. Okay, so PRS firmly in 10, 9, and 8 position in 2024. Coming in at 7, we have a Gibson Les Paul Standard 50s model. Number 6, Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s model. And I think they have different necks and a number of different things between them. So we got the first 3 are PRS. The next two are Gibson. And then we get into the Fender American Professional 2 Telecaster. Those, if you're aware of those Professional 2 Fenders, they are pretty sweet. And then the Fender Player Stratocaster, which I believe is the made in Mexico model. And I think those go for about $700 to $900, depending on when you find one. And then number 3 is the PRS SE Silver Sky. Interesting. So John Mayer's done well because he occupies 2 of the top 10 slots. And then comes the Fender American Professional 2 Stratocaster. You know, so we got both the Fender American Professional 2 Telecaster and the Fender American Professional 2 Stratocaster. So Fender is still dominating. So the guitar that I chose out of instinct and burning desire as a child is still at the top of the list and still dominating, actually. And the number 1 guitar is, you guessed it, Fender Player Telecaster. So a Telecaster takes the number 1 position. Interesting. So really just 4 brands in the top 10. I don't see Schecter. I don't see Ibanez. I mean, I'm telling you, in the top 20, I don't see Schecter and I don't see Ibanez. And that's really interesting because I really like both Schecters and Ibanez's, but they're really not dominating like these other companies are. Squire made the list. Squire's got the Squire J Mascis. Squire J Mascis Jazzmaster. So 1 Squire on the list. There's also an ESP and spot number 16, and all the rest are Fender, Gibson's, PRS. So, yeah, that means if you're buying a guitar to eventually sell it, in my way of looking at the world, you're probably wanting to get one of those brands because that's what people are buying and that's what's got demand. Very interesting. All right, let's see if there's anything else interesting. Then I'm going to move into talking about my next guitar purchases. Then if we get to the 10 likes, I'm going to play some original music. So if you can, smash that thumbs up button. All right, let's keep moving. All right. Okay, wow, this is kind of interesting. The Grateful Dead on Jerry Garcia's lasting impact on their legacy and how they felt the band couldn't go on without him. The band looked back on lead guitarist Jerry Garcia's pivotal role when they received this year's prestigious Kennedy Center honor. Now, I don't know if anybody on this stream is a fan of the Grateful Dead. I've certainly spent a lot of time listening to Grateful Dead, and what an incredible band. Incredible for so many reasons. If you get a chance to watch the Netflix special that talks about their history, that's fascinating. They really had they were really pioneers in so many ways. You know, as it turns out, when they're playing in Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco and so on back in the day, they didn't actually play songs. They just jammed. Like, whatever came to mind, they would just jam. And they were, like, the idea of being contained by a song was something that seems like that they didn't have interest in. Which, I love that idea. I really do. And they eventually got signed, and it seemed like the record label was trying to convince them to make a song, and they kind of had to learn how to make a song, and they ended up doing that, and so many great tunes, in my opinion, came out of them. But Jerry Garcia was, according to that, was really the father figure of the band, and actually taught some of the other guys how to play guitar and so on. Really kind of a tragic end to Jerry as a declining health. I mean, he died really, really young. I think he died in his 50s, like his early 50s. And if you look at pictures of Jerry Garcia, I mean, it's like he's rode hard, put away wet. If you heard that expression, I mean, he had a lot of miles on him. He looked like Santa Claus or something, like all gray, white hair. Now, I'm older now than Jerry Garcia when he died. So, that's a little freaky for me, but the late Jerry Garcia played a key role in cementing the Grateful Dead's legacy as a behemoth it is today. Serving as principal songwriter, lead guitarist, multi-instrumentalist, his influence was so profound that the rest of the band doubted whether the group could continue without him after his passing in 1995. I didn't think we could go on because when Jerry left, that was the end of the Grateful Dead, period, drummer Bill Kreisman tells CBS Mornings. There's just no way that you can replace Jerry Garcia. He continues, there's great, wonderful players out there that can sit in, but Jerry had this thing. He took over the whole stage. He had everybody's attention. He had all the musicians' attention, and we followed him very closely. He would hold the rhythm down, sometimes a lot. It was a way of not ever getting lost when he was on the stage. Yeah. Then the band did disband after he died. However, since then, there have been a number of reunions, and the surviving members and combinations of different musicians, and the guitarist Bob Weir insists that Garcia still very much serves as a source of inspiration, even visiting him in his dreams. Did you know Billy Joel says that all of his songs came from dreams? He goes to sleep, the song comes, all the lyrics, all the chords, the arrangement, he gets up, he's got a song. The whole thing, all of it. And he said every one of his songs comes to him that way. Yeah, it's really mysterious, the whole dreaming thing. But I think if you can tap into that, you probably could get some songs. But, Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, they basically continued the 60s all the way into the early 90s. They had a caravan of people that followed them all over the country, as you probably well know. And it ended in places, where they were playing mega stadiums, places like the Giant Stadium, where they would have, they said in the documentary, they had at one point 100,000 people inside watching them play and 200,000 people in the parking lot. Yeah, so that's pretty intense. Now, I'm a fan of all music. I love anything that makes you feel something. And, there are some of those Grateful Dead songs which are all-time classics. Okay, I think we'll stop the news there, but I always like to look at Guitar World, see what's going on. I certainly hope John Bonamassa's guitar collection makes it through the LA fires, but even more so, I would gladly trade all of John Bonamassa's guitars to save just one life. I'm sure you would also agree that is far more valuable than the stuff. And it also makes me think, as I think about that John Bonamassa, guitar collection, or my guitar collection, or your guitar collection, or things in general, like, how important is it to you? And I don't think stuff should be that important to you. Now, it's easy to say when you got a lot of stuff. But, how valuable is a guitar? What is the value of a guitar? And to me, the value of a guitar is the ability from how well it allows me to produce the music and art that I want to produce. And I can sometimes do that on a $200 guitar as well as any other. And in fact, maybe I'm more inspired by that guitar than even the more expensive guitars I found. But sometimes that's not the case at all. I have a beautiful guitar on the chair behind me that is probably a $1,400 guitar, plays like a dream, fit and finish, solid, just amazing. That you can tell it's worth every bit of that. I mean, it's just so much better than a $200 guitar. But I'd claim when you buy a guitar, it's either got songs in it or it doesn't. And you kind of know it. Like, you're inspired when you pick up a guitar like songs start coming out of it. And I found even like certain drummers, bassists, guitarists, they inspire them to me. They kind of like push the music out of me, so to speak, just by perceiving what they're doing. So, but really the only value in a guitar for me is its ability to produce the music I want to produce. I'd like to think that if I were to break this guitar or that guitar, it would not have that big of an effect. Of course, it would bum me out to lose something I like, but honestly, it's just stuff. And every time we have a hurricane come shooting through here, we always got to think, I always got to think. I've had to many times in this house. We live just not far from the beach on the Atlantic Ocean, and you have a Category 5 hurricane heading towards your town. And I've had looking at that news, seeing that Category 5 heading to your hometown and going, we're evacuating, and probably this is going to be like a homestead situation or something. We're going to lose all our stuff, and I found that to be a really good exercise. It's like philosophically, look at all your stuff. What's important, and what do I need to take, and how much can I put in my car? Oh, I've got this or that or whatever, and you can't take it all. And at some point you have to realize you might just lose it all. And I'm sure the people in LA are going through that right now. And it's horrifying. It gives you this sick feeling in your stomach. But having gone through that several times, we got lucky. We've only had, just some fairly significant damage, but never lost it all, luckily. But we may someday. This might be the summer. I don't know, but where the big one comes and gets us. But it hasn't yet. But I found that to be useful to go like, I could lose this stuff, because what you're really making sure you got in the car is your 4 kids, your wife, and you're getting the heck out of Dodge. And the other stuff, it's like I can replace all that. Can't replace the people you love, and I don't mean to patronize you, because I know you probably all know this already, but that was my experience of dealing with looking at, now I've got all these guitars here, and you think, well, what are you going to take? Just take a couple that you really love. Holy moly, Holt Spencer is on the stream. Yes, sir. I was just talking about you, Holt. I was just saying that I encountered your channel the other day and was blown away, man. I mean, next level. And now you can put a face with the name Jedi Jingle Maker. Hope it's not too disappointing. But yeah, man, I'll tell you what, I would love to collaborate with you. I'd say that right now, get you on a track, listen to my stuff. You want to lay down a vocal track, or I'd write a tune that I think would work with your voice. I sent links to your channel to 3 of my best friends today, basically saying, dude, you got to listen to this guy, man. Holy mackerel. And they were all like, holy moly. Love it. Especially my singer Damon in Hunnitap was just like, man, where's this dude from? Is he around here? Is he like local to us? Can we get him? And I said, nah, he's out in Alabama. So, yeah, really cool, man. I super appreciate you being on the stream, dude. I hope you come back. Yeah, and don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you want to collab on whatever. Yeah, it might seem like I'm being nice, Holt, but I'm just being honest. And maybe that turns out being nice, but when I see art I love, I know it. I know it instantly. And dude, if I could sing like you, I'd probably just be singing all day long, honestly. And, I'm not like a huge fan of country music, not because I don't like country music, just because it hadn't really been in my kind of orbit of the types of music I grew up with. But you're making me a fan, for sure, because it's like, I've always loved things like Johnny Cash, and I love the Johnny Cash, but just hadn't explored it much. But you kind of open up a door to all that stuff, man. Super stoked on that, and I really appreciate you. That when you played that Complex Soul the other day, that rang the bell for me. I was like, holy mackerel! I think I wrote that song for Holt to sing. Honestly, is the way I felt about it. It was kind of weird. I hope I'm not being too odd about it, but that's how I felt. Lewis official YouTube channel. I'm gonna try to translate that, since I'm not sure what that language is, but I am sure that I can translate it. So let's translate it. All right. Italian, I think. Okay, Google Translate, please cooperate with me. I think there's an app called Translate. Yeah, Translate. There you go. Okay, let's try that. I found it. Paste it there. Okay, Google's Translate says that means my mind has taken flight, a single thought. I walk while the city sleeps, my eyes in the night, white headlights in the night, a voice that speaks to me. Who will it be? Tell me, lonely boy, where are you going? Why? It's kind of cool, actually. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like a poem. Very cool. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. It says, search ragazzo solo, ragazza sola. Oh. Okay. Let's see what that says. Oh, lyrics. Okay. It says David Bowie. Oh, how cool. All right, well, I searched it and I found it, and it looks like it's David Bowie, which I'm a huge David Bowie fan. Listened to a lot of David Bowie as a kid, that's for sure. Holt Spencer says, I've checked out a couple of your songs. Do you play in a band as well? Oh, yeah, thanks for the question. Everything that I've done pretty much on the channel is just me, all playing all the stuff. You know, a lot of it's through like MIDI triggered stuff, but I compose all of it in FL Studio using like a MIDI controller, and then I play the bass, I play the guitar. I try to do this. I do the singing in several of the songs, but some of the songs I started off just doing all instrumentals because I was a little insecure about my voice, and then I kind of been growing into using my voice more, singing more, and really getting into it. And but then I met my buddy Damon through the Band Mix app. Oddly enough, we wound up at this kind of these guys who were trying to form a band up here locally, invited me over to play, and I went over to play, and then Damon was there with those guys, and that was a funny experience, man. Because I was actually super nervous because I hadn't played out in a long time. I played in bands extensively all through high school and into college. Got paid to play every weekend and played a lot in college, out in clubs and fraternity houses and all kinds of stuff. But I hadn't played in like 25, 30 years, probably 25 years when I went over to play with those guys, and it was really intimidating. As soon as I got in the door, this older guitarist guy came up and he's like, I'm Rick. I'm not sure if you know me, but I'm a local legend around here. You probably heard of me. And I was like, oh man, what are we getting into? And they proceeded to, I was like, oh, that's cool, man. But I was like, oh, this took me right back to high school, like where my friends were like challenging my musical chops. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know you, but this is going to be something. And Damon was over there. He had a bass, and it's like, hey, how you doing? I met him and so on, and we ended up playing, but they were playing in this large room with hard walls, hard floors and ceilings, and it was like a sonic torture chamber, dude. I mean, gnarly loud. And the guitarist had an amp that was just ear-shatteringly loud. It was like so loud that it was like disturbing, because I'm used to now being in this little studio environment where I got these studio speakers, and I'm not listening to stuff cranked, because I got my family here and stuff, so they don't want to hear the walls shaking. And that was quite the experience, and I left that experience going, I never want to do that again. It was just crazy sonic echo chamber. Everything was so loud. I couldn't hear my guitar with their guitar. All the amps were pointed everywhere. The drummer was so loud. He was good, and the other guitarist, Rick, he was good and good enough, and they were playing kind of classic rock and so on. But it was way too loud, and I just told him, like, dude, I can't do it. I can't be there. every cell in my body wanted to be out of there. I want to play the music I want to play in the place I want to play it, but I don't want to be tortured by a sonic echo chamber. And it actually affected my hearing big time too. Like I dropped my hearing after that, and I was like, oh crap, did I like permanently damage my hearing? And I listened to a lot of heavy metal music, man, but that one got me. And but Damon was like, hey man, you and me, let me get your number. And so we did, and then we ended up getting together and recording that song. The first song that we made is called The Stop, if you want to check that one out. And when I heard what he did with that lyrically and so on, I was just like, man, we got to do this. And he was the same way. We were just so excited. So we kind of found each other, and that's what we've been doing, is working on the 10 songs for the Hunnitap stuff. And I still record a lot of the Jedi Jingle Maker stuff on my own. But yeah, getting ready to start playing out. But here's the thing, the idea of having a drummer, no offense to all my drummer friends, but the idea of having a drummer and having to control the sonic experience of a drummer, or even to do like what I did in college where we had to lug drum sets in and out of places and set up and break down, it ain't my thing. It ain't my thing. I want to be able to honestly have a backing track with that stuff on it, and then just play what I want to play in the places I want to play it. And now the setup that I've got now, it took me a little while to get it together, but I can take a laptop and a few little pieces of gear and play anywhere with batteries. Like, I don't even need to plug in. So I could record anywhere, and I live in a place where there's a lot of beautiful stuff around the ocean and everything else. If you look at my videos, you'll see a lot of, like, I'm flying my drone over the ocean, and, you know, that's the end of my street. So, you know, it's beautiful. So the idea of being able to go play, my whole goal is to play the music that I really love in the places I really love with the people I really love. And that's it. And in terms of like going, like the idea of going and playing in a bar to me is so unappealing. Not to say I wouldn't do it, but right now it has no appeal to me. The idea of like going and playing a whole bunch of cover songs, although I spent years and years and years playing cover songs and originals, it has no appeal to me. I really just want to sink into it and enjoy the playing of it. And that's why the thing of playing on the internet, streaming on the internet, playing is so appealing to me. And my next level accomplishment is, over the last few weeks, I've been leveling up in a lot of areas. One is this vertical streaming. You can see we're streaming vertically here, so I can get in the, and I'm doing that from my computer. I'm doing that through a plug-in that goes into OBS software, so I can stream vertically even though I can do it from my computer, which puts me into the what do you call it, the YouTube Shorts feed, right? So it pops up on everybody's phone, which is really cool. So you can get kind of into the flow with where everybody's kind of going to. And then, yeah, so I accomplished that this week. And the next thing I'm going to do is learn how to multi-stream, meaning I'm going to stream to multiple sources. And that's actually really easy to do as well. I know. I was going to do that tonight, and then I'm like, I'm just going to jump on. I don't want to overcomplicate it. Tonight I just want to get on and do this. But maybe tomorrow night I'll do this, which is to stream to multiple places. Now, I've got an Instagram account that I haven't been tending to, because it's like you got to go into YouTube, do a video, then go into Instagram and do a whole separate thing, and it's like this whole rigmarole, right? But when you multi-stream, you can just put the stream key in and stream to like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, which apparently is another one that is a huge place. They said that people under 20 get 70% of their news from TikTok. Like, nobody under 20 is watching the news, like watching whatever, MSNBC, Fox News, all these different news. Like, they're not watching that. Like, my kids, they don't watch any of that. Like, if you say, hey, did you see that thing on fill in the blank news? Like, what are you talking about? People watch news. Oh yeah, and I'm going to ride a horse to school as well. It's like they would never, like, why would I do that? I would never watch. They would just have no interest. In fact, they look at it as just a manipulation place, and that people who watch it are silly is kind of their view. But they're going to, these places. So the idea of being able to stream right away to these places is super appealing. And that's the kind of stuff you can do without having to go into a bar. Which, yeah, that whole thing, man, being around like super drunk people, which is cool because the more you drink, the better I'll sound. I always used to say that, like, keep on keeping on because, you won't even notice I'm out of tune. But yeah, they're really not there to see you. You're kind of like the entertaining, dancing bear or whatever. It doesn't appeal to me. Yeah. I'm not sure. Oh, oh, I see what you did there. Yeah. What you think about Cold Chamber? I actually am not aware of Cold Chamber. I saved the David Bowie stuff because I'm going to go back and look at that after the stream. Some of this stuff that you guys point out to me, I'll look at after. I'm going to look at Cold Chamber. Cold Chamber tickets. Live and buy Cold Chamber Orlando tickets. Live at the Hard Rock. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Cold Chamber, but being that I like pretty much every form of music, I'm going to check it out. Thanks for the heads up. Appreciate it very much. Holt Spencer says, dude, that's really cool, man. Thank you. I feel that with the bar scene, you're not getting discovered that way too much. Yeah, probably not. No. You're getting discovered, I think, nowadays, probably on the internet. That would be my thought. Yeah, and probably the multi-streaming's where it's at. Yeah, that's for sure. At least that would be my thought. Yeah, it's a neat idea for me that, anybody listens to my music. So the fact that you listen to a few of my songs, I mean, like, that's good enough for me. And if something else happens, wonderful. Totally open to it. But I don't know if you've ever listened to Rick Rubin talk about the creative process. Rick Rubin's a music producer. He produced bands like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and many others. I think he did, the Johnny Cash album where Johnny Cash did the song Hurt. Yeah. And he claims that the way to make really great music is to simply do exactly what you want to do, what sounds good to you, to never do what you think is going to sound good to someone else, to never try to make a song that you think people are going to like you never plug into the source or whatever you want to call it when you approach creativity that way, but that you do what you hear, what you're wanting to put out there. And there's this other thought that I think is kind of interesting. Dan was pointing me out to this the other day, that some people have said there's like all the songs that could ever be written exist and they're kind of floating out there, and it's a matter of like tapping into them. I like that idea. I don't know how a lot of things work. Like I always say, if you can explain to me how infinity and eternity work, well, I'm going to start to believe a lot of what you got to offer. But chances are, like me, you have no idea how something like that could exist. So there's a lot of mystery. You can call it mysticism, whatever, but there's a lot of mystery. And music is mysterious. It's beautiful. I don't know where it comes from, but I listen back to things I've created and I go like, I made that? Where did that come from? But somehow it happened. Yeah, now that being said, the bar scene thing of going and playing in bars and so on, although that doesn't appeal to me, there are some, like there's a place at Kava Bar, if you know what Kava is, it's like this bitter root stuff that you drink and it like makes you feel relaxed or something. I also read that it also can really tag your liver, like give, if you've got a liver that's not in great condition, it can take it over the edge. So it could be kind of dangerous for some people. I just as soon not do any of that ever anyway, because you never do it, you never miss it. You know what I mean? But there's a Kava Bar, and it seems like they're pretty happy in there. Like that was a little different than like a normal bar to me. It seemed like they were like, "Hey, man," like kind of more mellow. Thought that might be a place to go. Now, if I go play that, what I'd want to do is play my own stuff and see how it works out. All right. Eli Cohen asks, what's your favorite type of beans? Beans. The musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So eat beans with every meal. Soybeans. Absolutely soybeans. I grew up on a farm, believe it or not. And you won't believe what state. They used to call it the Garden State. I think they still do, but they should probably take the name away because it's really mostly just corporate parks and houses now. But New Jersey. My grandfather had about 100 acres of land, and we grew sweet corn and peppers and tomatoes. And I grew up in the summers wandering the fields and picking vegetables every morning. I would go out and pick 200, 300 ears of corn with my grandfather every morning to take out to the roadside stand and sell and pick tomatoes and peppers and all that kind of stuff. But one of the other things he grew wheat, and he also grew soybeans. I don't know, maybe 50 acres each. Fair amount. Had combine, 2 International 250 diesel tractors, and that whole area now has become a giant corporate park. It's incredibly depressing. That land was like, you could take the soil from the ground there and take a handful of it, put it up to your nose and smell it, and it just smelled rich, and it smelled almost like a vegetable without it being a vegetable. It was so rich, and it produced the most incredible tasting vegetables I've ever had, hands down. Now it's just covered with a corporate park, which kind of makes me sick to think about it, honestly. But yeah, because he grew soybeans, and he also grew lima beans. I see, Eli, you said lima beans. Yeah, I love lima beans. I do. They've got that kind of like iron, what's that flavor I want to say, where it kind of makes your mouth, I forget the name of the word. But anyway, yeah, I love lima beans. We used to go to this farm that had a lot of lima beans and pick them, and then we did a lot of trading between various farms that were around us. Like, hey, I'll give you 10 dozen ears of corn if you give me, whatever, 10 things of beans. And then everybody was canning and preserving them over the winter, so you had fresh vegetables all winter long. But the soybean fields, I would just roam the soybean fields and eat fresh soybeans. And then when we would harvest the soybeans, I'd always take a lot of mason jars full of the dried soybeans and just eat those. And now they sell them at like sushi restaurants. They call it edamame, and put salt on it and cook the soybeans. So that's why soybeans have a childhood place. But he grew green beans, soybeans, every kind of bean. Not every kind, but a lot of kinds of beans. Sludged, welcome. Thank you for jumping on. Appreciate it. By the way, all of you, if you feel like subbing to this kind of silliness, well, I would be super stoked that you did. I'd be happy to have you along for the ride on the bus and see you back again. Because I do this a fair amount now, because I like to do it so much. Play Crowbar and I Hate God. Those bands are amazing. All right. That's a clever name. I like your eyes. I'm going to write it down. I'll type it in. That'll be easier. Yeah, I'd love to learn about new bands. Crowbar. I don't know if you've heard of the band Kubla Khan, but man, I get me some Kubla Khan. They're from Texas, the great state of Texas. And by the way, just for the record, I definitely don't hate God. Yeah, the older I get, the more I kind of understand the value of all that stuff, but I don't try to push it on anybody. But I think it's still a cool name for a band, actually. Very metal. Very metal. Sludge says, that's an interesting thing. I made a metal track that did kind of good on SoundCloud. Oh, super cool, man. Congratulations. And I tried to do something similar and didn't really like it and didn't work well. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I'll tell you, the kind of heavy metal that I would love to make, I always thought would be cool. In fact, I bought a 7-string guitar at one point to be able to do this kind of thing. But I never could adjust to the 7-string guitar because I'm so used to 6-string guitars. Yeah, I love Hatebreed, if you know Hatebreed, as a style of music, and that Kubla Khan's kind of similar, but that kind of highly rhythmic, metal. I would call it like hardcore metal. I love that stuff. But what I tend to vibe towards in terms of my original music is something much more vibey and sort of mellow. But I still do love all that type of music. Holt Spencer says, I microdose Kratom. Kava is a little too strong. Oh, okay. There was a place in Jacksonville that was similar to what you said. Yeah. The Kratom thing seems to be catching on in Florida. And the Kava thing. Yeah, I steer clear of it all. But yeah, I certainly get it, man. Yeah, all good. All good. Eli Cohen says, I like lima beans. Yeah. Got any sense you like lima beans? I would claim. All right, so what am I planning on getting next? You know, I'm always got some kind of gear obsession where I'm like, I got to get this thing. And I'm really decided the guitars I have, I look at them like a can of paintbrushes, and you got like the right paintbrush and for painting the picture you want to paint. Like maybe I want some P90 pickups for this kind of thing, or I want like the single coil Hendrixy tone, or I want like the humbucker, I want to produce that metal sound, like a real good distortion sound. And depending on what I'm going for, I want to be able to have the guitar that I need to do that. And I have those now. I really do. And I have a couple that I'm going to be upgrading some pickups on and so on. But what I really want to do now is have all of the effects that I would need to perform live through streams and use pedals. Now I have an HX Stomp XL, which is like an amp modeler that I use and that I'd used in a lot of my recordings that have a ton of effects that are in that HX Stomp. And also I have a fair amount of effects in FL Studio that I can apply to the guitar signals that I put in. And however, now that I'm performing live, you know, where I get those effects from, I could, again, get it from the HX Stomp, can certainly do that. But that HX Stomp XL, it's so complicated, man. It's like, I feel like I'm doing a science project every time I'm in there. I guess I'm a little more old school in that I just want to click that pedal and get that sound. And, you know, I kind of really like just collecting the pedals too. So right now I have a really good delay that I got. It was the one from Amazon. It's called A-Labs something or other, but it's a really great delay pedal. It's got like reverse delay and tape delay and analog delay and every kind of delay, and you can configure it 10 ways to Sunday. And yeah, so I've got that. I've also got a good reverb, and it's the kind of reverb that you can hold down the button and it'll do the forever reverb, so you can like play a note, it will sustain it, and then you can play over that note. So I love that just for like the softer stuff or that kind of thing. I like Tom Misch, if you know who Tom Misch is, Jordan Reiki, others like that. I have a playlist on the channel called Vibe Tracks. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. But I still do need a good chorus pedal, a good fuzz pedal, because I use chorus in several of my songs. I use fuzz in some of the solos, but I don't have a fuzz pedal on my pedal board. And the other thing would be a good, the ability to do a good flanger, like a phaser flanger type thing. So probably a few pedals will be my next purchases, and I'm looking at a few. I have a lot of faith in my Sweetwater sales engineer. If you don't know about the Sweetwater sales engineer thing, holy moly, you're welcome. I mean, they just are a wealth of information. Like I know, this much about music, and they know this much, like way, way beyond what I could. So I've learned over the years where I was like, are you just trying to sell me something? And that if I don't kind of go with what they recommend, I regret it, and I end up wanting to get what they asked for anyway. So I've learned that lesson over the years. Now I know if like Ray tells me this is the thing to get, I really probably need to get that, or just regret not getting it later. So he pointed me to a really interesting fuzz that I'll probably end up getting. But I've been like shopping for fuzz pedals, listening to fuzz pedal, demos, and thinking which is the one. I found one called the Fat Pickle, and it's gnarly. I mean, it's like a really, really heavy fuzz effect, And there's a couple songs I have where I have like some fuzz lines in it where I do like lead single string, like up the neck type of stuff that I'm going to need that for to produce that same effect. And plan on getting that. Delta Hate, Holt Spencer says, is a band that you can check out. My roommate is a producer for them. If you're interested in Birmingham hardcore scene, pretty unique with a girl lead singer that does screamo. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds great. It's a great name, Delta Hate. I think some of the gnarliest metal bands come from the South. Like I said, there's that Kubla Khan. They're from Texas. I don't know if you've seen, if you're not aware of Kubla Khan, they have a video where they have this girl in a wheelchair that stage dives in her wheelchair. It's gnarly. So I'll definitely check that out. What I do is I just type them into my browser, and then I'll go look them up afterwards so I don't stall out the stream too long. Yep. All right. Let's see. Are you comfortable with analog or digital? I'm really fine with both, honestly. To my ear, I don't hear too much of a difference. I was saying earlier, I use a Spark Mini amp now as my primary. I came from like, a Laney tube, 100-watt tube stack kind of world to all the way down to this little thing, which is a positive grid, a Spark Mini, which is like this little modeling amp. The thing's incredible. Like for my little space here, it's good enough. And, if we're playing live out anywhere, I could just simply go headphones jack out to a soundboard and then out to a PA system, and who the heck cares? So, yeah, we're probably going to experiment with that with the Hunnitap thing. One of the things we decided we're going to do is create a couple music videos out of the 10 songs that I'll script just for a couple of the songs we like the most, and I'll script a couple of music videos, get the drone going, get the the iPhone now. It's incredible. It's like as good as a movie camera. I mean, like the quality is so good. If you have good light, like bright Florida light, man, with an iPhone, it's great. And if you have a gimbal so the thing's not shaking all around, it's incredible. And then as long as you have excellent sound quality, you can produce something really fantastic. So, yeah, and that's, obviously all digital. And it's got tons of effects on it in that little amp, but then, I still kind of like the pedal board experience for whatever reason. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I like the click and then the sound. It just seems so simple to me on some level that you just click it and it goes. Now, another thing is I think I want to have more than one delay pedal, because I'd like to probably have a pretty way out there reverse delay, like the old Jimi Hendrix, backwards weird delay. I want to have that. I want to have another delay pedal that has just like a crazy long, almost call response type of delay, that kind of distance between the delay. And then one that's more like just a lead tone delay. But that lead tone delay is probably already the one that's built into this Spark amp. And I could always go with the HX Stomp XL, which is a Line 6 modeler, amp modeler. But the problem I've had with that is I'm going to say I don't really have this. I haven't put in the time to learn, and I could put in the time to do it, but to get it tuned in so that it always seems to be just a little like tinny to me, almost. I'm used to that tube amp kind of, push from my early days, and I love that richness, a lot of mid in the signal. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm really looking forward to getting out and playing more. By the way, thanks for everybody who's on the stream. Really appreciate it. Super stoked you're here. Would be even more stoked if you would sub to the channel. If you're interested, totally understand if you don't. But love to get more on the bus if you like my music. Also, yeah, I love to find out about more stuff. So all these bands you guys are telling me about is really super cool. I really like that. I'm an explorer, musical explorer, for sure. And I never know what's going to float my boat, tilt my trailer, whatever, what's going to really get me get the sand out of my shoe, whatever you want to say, and get me moving to a thing that I want to create. So all killer, zero filler. Yeah, and if you're interested in any of my other YouTube channels or finding more about my other stuff, I've got a fruit forest in my backyard that I do permaculture. I've got mango trees and bananas and coconuts, and I've been doing that for a year. That channel's got like 36,000 subscribers and a lot of videos on it and so on. So that's called Eat Your Backyard. And I also have a surfing channel that has a lot of my son and myself surfing, and that is called Surf All Day A1A. I have a fishing channel, and I don't tend to these channels much anymore. Although I do plan on going back and touching some of them to create shorts from the main videos, because I just figured out how to do that, which I think is super cool. In YouTube, on your own videos, it gives you on the remix button you see come up, you can then create a short using your phone interface. You can create a short from a video that you made very easily. So I'm going to start playing around with that much more. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see here. Nigerian Prince. Cool name. Can you give a shout out to Frida Doohickey? Let's see who that is. I'm going to put that in here. Not sure what that is. Derek S. says, you would love Prison. Is it Prison the band or is the Place Prison? Because I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like the Place Prison. But Prison the band. Now you got me curious. Oh, okay. Prison is an American nu metal band from Tampa. The band's lineup consists of vocalist Johnny Crowder, guitarist Austin Coop. Oh, super cool, man. Yeah, I'm going to check that out. They got a song called Still Alive. Right on. I'm so glad you weren't talking about the actual Place Prison, because I know I would not enjoy that. One of my main goals in life has been to stay out of that place. If at all possible. Ben Riddle, cool if I smoke a cig? Absolutely. Yes, there is. We've waived the no smoking policy. You can smoke all you want, and you're welcome if you want one. Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. I'll let you know. Tyler Shep Shreds. Yes, thank you, sir. Stoked to see you still on the stream here. Do I need a moderator? I absolutely do. Tyler Shep Shreds, would you like to be a moderator? Pregnant pause. I do need a moderator. This is how I achieved all my moderators on Eat Your Backyard, was just by cool people I encountered. Yes. All right. Bam. Okay. Tyler Shep Shreds, you are now a moderator. Thank you very much. I needed a moderator, and I'm not even kidding when I'm not exaggerating at all when I say I am absolutely honored to have you as a moderator. So thank you. All right, let's see here. And thank you. I've been actually saying I need a moderator, and to have like one of the top shredrific people I am aware of on earth be the moderator of Jedi Jingle Maker is pretty much the high point of my day, to be honest. And I had a lot of things happen, but I love doing this. Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Keep up the good. Derek the band or the place? Is Derek the band is a music group? I love this, like finding out about new music. Derek the Band, musical artist. Let's check this out. Derek the Band, immerse yourself in a musical journey that brings the past to life. Pop in your earbuds, listen to Derek. Is it Derek the Bandit? Is that what it was? Did I misread that? I think I misread that. Oh, you're talking to the guy in the chat. Okay, sorry. Derek S. All right, sorry. Yeah, momentarily confused, but I'm back. Good. Derek S. Banned, but Avery Correctional wasn't too shabby. Yeah, very cool. Derek S. Good food, good people. Yeah, man. Holt Spencer. What does a moderator help you do? Okay, yeah, so the moderator can put people in timeout. They can, do a whole number of things. That's a good question. Let's ask. What does a moderator do? You know, if you ever get like, let's say mean people, they can boot people. You can do that kind of stuff without you having to worry about it. They, typically also they can help kind of keep the momentum going on the stream, solicit people to add, help you keep track of things, all kinds of things. But AI tells me, unless it's lying, and it could be, but I'm going to trust it. A moderator is a person who oversees and facilitates a discussion in a meeting. Yeah, but that's not what I want. I want to know, what does a YouTube moderator do? Roles and responsibilities of a YouTube moderator. Their primary responsibility is to enforce community guidelines. Yeah, I guess the community guideline here is just, let me know what you're thinking. I don't really have too many guidelines other than, moderators remove spam, hate speech, abusive content. I'm going to say probably like the troll factor or whatever. People who want to do that type of thing. I get it. Everybody has a bad day. Eventually. You think everything's going great. Well, just wait long enough. You're going to get challenged. They also have the power to mute or block users who violate rules. Their key role is to oversee comments and engagement on videos. Yeah, that's outstanding. Yeah, super stoked. Very, very cool. All right, talking to the guy in the chat. As in, you're talking to the guy in the chat, or do you mean the band? Yeah. Derek S. Combat spammers. Yeah, I guess that's the other thing. I think there's like some people have rules about no self-promotion. I never understood that one. Like, that's not a rule here. You want to promote your stuff, your stuff. I have no rule against that. Like, in fact, my kind of view is, especially if I like what you're doing, like, what Tyler Shep's doing and what Holt's doing, and I want to promote their stuff. I don't want to restrict them from promoting their stuff. I think there's plenty of views to go around, and I'm kind of stoked to let other people know about things that I'm stoked about. So, yeah, of course, if somebody's getting like super gnarly in a negative way, it's probably going to get a little old at some point. Spammers or whatever. But, typically, I've done that Eat Your Backyard thing for 10 years, and I could almost say I never encountered a negative person or a spammer or anything that I was just, that bummed me out. I mean, occasionally somebody would say something like hurt my feelings for whatever reason, but I'm a big boy. I can have my feelings hurt, so yeah. It's all right, man. That's just a feeling like any other feeling. Yeah, the wrong thing is to try to move away from that, right? Which I would claim, like, just weather it. Oh, I get more trolls on vertical, says Tyler. Yeah, that's interesting. I moderate for Lester Mitchell and Searching for Tone, if you know them. I don't know Lester Mitchell and Searching for Tone, but, geez, I'm going to have so many tabs up on this browser. I want to, well, I suppose I could look back on the comments too, but I really want to, Lester Mitchell and Searching for Tone. Sounds good. Yeah, you've been such a source of finding cool stuff. Searching for tone. The other one is Lester Mitchell. Yeah, I saw you over on the Bald Shredder, on the Bald Shredder channel the other day, which was pretty cool. I really like what Bald Shredder's doing. He seems like a good dude, and he certainly got the chops that I love to listen to him play. But he does a lot of like reviews of value guitars or inexpensive, cheap guitars, whatever you're going to call them. And good guy. I actually reached out to him and asked him if he wanted to collab, and he was like, not really interested, but I wanted to respond to you, and I thought that was super cool. Totally fine with you not being interested. And really respect that he got back. Yeah. Oh, that Lester Mitchell. Then they're BFFs. Yeah, I know who Lester Mitchell is. Yeah, Lester Mitchell is amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. Yeah, for sure. I do know who Lester Mitchell is. And yeah, definitely a fan of Bald Shredder too. Yeah, that guy's super cool. Really nice. Well, I had said I was going to watch a movie with my youngest son, who is 14, and out in the other room. He had a cold the first couple of days of this week, so he was home, and then he got his first day back to school and came back and said, we're watching that zombie movie tonight, but now it's getting kind of late, so about 11 o'clock here. Yeah, probably not going to. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie 28 Days. I actually searched for it to see if it was on a streaming service. I like zombie movies. I really do like them. I don't know why. I've always enjoyed watching like end of the world movies. Not that I would like to see the end of the world, but for some reason that always appealed to me. As a kid, I grew up in the 70s, and I was certain that the world would be over by now. I mean, I was absolutely certain that the end of the world was coming through nuclear Armageddon, because there was a lot of talk about that. And, in the late 70s, everybody was sitting in gas lines. It seemed like we had hostages overseas. It seemed like everything was falling apart. And then we had Reagan come in as president, and he was like saber rattling with the Russians. And we all thought, me and my peer group thought that it was going to be nuclear war. I mean, there were all kinds of movies about it the day after, and this idea of like, I could remember thinking, there's going to be like, I'm going to look up one day and I'm going to see these bombs shooting over my head. It was real messed up. I think that's a super messed up thing. And I eventually realized, honestly, that, damn, man, we were all like raised to be scared to death. And who knows what's going to happen? I can't tell you what's going to happen. But yeah, that like fear stuff. But I think that creeped into my psyche, and that I kind of like that idea of really what I like about it is looking at that kind of stuff and then knowing it's not happening. They call that stoic negative visualization, which is that you visualize something that could be very bad, and not because you like bad things, but you visualize it because, and really experience the idea of this really negative thing, like whatever it is. And then to realize it's not happening to me right now. Like, things are actually pretty good. You're like, I'm having a bad day. No, you're really not. I mean, think of how bad a bad day can be. I mean, bad days get so bad. And I haven't really experienced too many of the real bad days. So, I've experienced some bad days, for sure. Sad days, bad days. But never as bad as it can get, because it can get really bad. So I like to see these movies maybe for that reason. But 28 Days is a zombie movie, and then they made 28 months, and I've heard they're even going to make 28 years, which to me is one of the ultimate things. The ultimate zombie movies, in my opinion. There was a movie called Night of the Comet. I don't know if anybody's seen Night of the Comet. That movie fascinated me. This concept of you would be the only person on Earth. Always, like, I used to think about that all the time. Like, wow, what would that be like? Like, wow, you could just go anywhere and you would have anything. Like, if you wanted to have the world's biggest boat, or you could have a whole island, and you eventually realize, like, all that stuff would be worth nothing without everybody else being around. You would just be perpetually lonely, and that was like the movie. But the idea was that this guy was in his metal shed, like one of these garden sheds, and this comet went over and it vaporized everybody on Earth. He comes out of the shed and like he's like, hey, and everybody's gone. He walks around the streets, everybody's gone. And eventually all he's doing is just searching for somebody else. And like all that stuff that's just sitting around is like not his concern. That's called Night of the Comet, I believe. Night of the Comet. I'm going to look that up. Yeah, I'd like to watch that again. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. Another great, very funny movie, in my opinion. Night of the Comet. Yeah, there it is. 1984 film. Yep. Just to date myself, in 1984, I was 14 years old. And that movie hit home. Oh, yeah, look at that. The hairstyles of 1984. I still like them. A lot of Charlie's Angels time. But yeah, Night of the Comet. A huge comet passes near Earth, vaporizing nearly the whole planet. And there's one guy left. Yeah, now there's another really funny one if you're curious about this kind of thing, and I won't talk too much about this stuff, and that is The Last Man on Earth. I think it's called The Last Man on Earth. It's a comedy. It was a TV series, I believe, on HBO, but I'm not exactly sure. The Last Man on Earth. I'm going to look that up. And that one is so funny. And I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm just not going to go into the thing. But they had a couple seasons of it, and then they didn't produce the other season. I was watching it with my oldest daughter at the time when it was on. And when we realized they weren't going to release another season, it was really, we were really bummed. But yeah, almost 2 years after a virus wiped out most of the Earth, Phil Miller only wishes for some company. But soon he gets more than he bargained for. Yeah, that's the big idea. So it's the same kind of idea. Probably motivated by something like Night of the Comet. Yeah, maybe I ought to write a song about that. Like, yeah, what good is everything if you don't have, somebody to share it with? Yeah, something like that, but not that cliche. All right. And then Tyler Shep Shred says, Lester is such a nice guy, down-to-earth guy. Yeah, I got that impression too. I've watched a bunch of his videos, and I got the impression he is a cool, down-to-earth guy. I saw the one video where Bald Shredder went over and drove to his house. I guess that's that whole BFF thing. That looked like a lot of fun, and gave him a guitar, and yeah, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. At some point, I'll do a stream with Lester. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm tuning in for that one. You can count on it. Holt Spencer says, does your son enjoy music? If not, what's his niche? Oh, that's a great question. Thanks, Holt. My youngest son, he's really not that into music, but he's really into football. He loves football. So we surf together. He loves to swim in the ocean with me. What we love to do, one of the things we love to do the most, and I love to do the most with him certainly, is when the ocean gets super big and like violent waves, is to go down there on high tide and play right in the shore pound where the waves are just crashing down. Now, I'll share a little story with everybody on here, and you might think I'm making this up, but I'm not. And that is that my family has been bitten by sharks 3 times, and I've been rammed by a shark twice. And I'm not saying that to brag or like it's some kind of big deal that happened, because in Florida there's sharks everywhere in the water. I mean, it's just, the ocean is full of life. I love it, but there are a lot of sharks, man. And if you're in the ocean, every day, like I had done for probably 30 years, where every day for long periods of time, right at the crack of dawn, all the way into the dark, you're in the water. And that's when they're feeding and they're out there and they're hitting bait and you're right in and amongst it. I mean, I know dozens of people that have been bitten by sharks. And you might think, holy moly, did it bite off their leg or something? It's like, absolutely not. Most of the shark bites are just, they bite, they attach, they let go. Or like in the case of my oldest son, he was at the NSSA East Coast Surfing Championship years ago. He was 13 years old. And if you've ever been to New Smyrna Beach in Florida, it's a very flat, low-lying beach, but it's known as the shark attack capital of the world. It's about an hour from where I live, hour and a half from where I live. And sharks breed in there. So there are a lot of like hopped up sharks that are in there all the time. So people are getting bitten all the time. At that contest, there were 3 shark bites. So just to point out that it's not unique. We're not some kind of special, thing here. But he was in the quarterfinals of the surfing contest. He had made it all the way to there, and I was so stoked, and I'm videotaping him like from the beach, but it's a real flat, low beach, so the waves break way out, and I mean like 100 yards or further out, really far out. So it's kind of hard to see him, and I was in a little handheld recorder, and I'm watching him, and he comes in, and I go, "What are you doing? I think you're winning the heat. You get back out there." And he goes, "I was bitten by a shark." I look at his leg; he's got blood pouring down. He was bitten by about a 6-7 foot bull shark, right across his calf of his leg, and it actually bit him, and then it clamped again, and then it kind of opened up and dragged off. So you could see that like bite, and then let go and drag, and then I was just, holy moly, what the heck? And the whole experience was pretty intense. But the thing is, at New Smyrna Beach at Ponce Inlet, they encounter shark bites all the time. So the lifeguards were on him like stink on poo, and they got him bandaged up. And I actually had a buddy of mine who's a nurse who was down there, and he said, "Dude, call off the ambulance. He does not need an ambulance. They got him wrapped up just fine. Just drive him up to the New Smyrna Hospital. They got him, but you don't need an ambulance. That's like a whole hassle you don't need." So I canceled that, and we drove him up. Everybody was applauding. But as I'm getting him in the car, another kid's running up the beach who had been bitten as well, and he was bitten on the foot. And then there was one other kid that was bitten on the hand. So they're just like bites. And then that same son was bitten again right at the end of our street early in the morning, which when they're all out there, that we call it Fish 30. And a little black tip shark came up and bit him on the side of his shorts and like ripped his shorts kind of open on the side, brand new board shorts, ripped his shorts, and then got up on his board and was like snapping at him, and he had to actually push it off his board. And that's when he stopped surfing yellow surfboards. Because we said that surfboard is like a damn shark lure. Okay, so there's something going on here where you sustained 2 bites, and that thing almost got your leg. And but anyway, so then that happened. And then with my youngest son, we were at the beach swimming about 2 years ago, and he goes, what's going on? He goes, "I've been bitten." I go, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." And yeah, he was bitten across his foot right at the end of our street. And so off to the emergency room again. And that one, none of them were, a little bit of soft tissue damage. My oldest son got a little bit of tendon damage, but they all recovered from it. Now, 2 weeks after that, I was out fishing, just casting a little silver spoon on some Spanish mackerel, and I'll be damned if a good-sized bull shark didn't just bop right into the back of my legs, almost knocked me over, bruised the back of my leg, hit me so hard. I think, and then it tore off, and I was in like a foot of water. It was crazy. But didn't bite me. Another time one came up and almost bit me, but I was able to just kind of like jerk my arm out of the way. But anyway, so sharks. But to your question, Holt, the ocean. We love the ocean. We love swimming in the ocean, surfing in the ocean, and we love tossing the football. One of the things we like to do is what we call the walk and toss, where we just grab the ball, walk around the neighborhood, use the sidewalk as the sideline, and toss the ball. He does a lot of like football stuff. Yep. All right, let's keep going. So Miguel Medina, I'll catch up on these comments a little bit. Seems like you play guitar. I do play guitar. Yes, all these guitars behind me are, oh, holy moly. We have got 9 likes. We are almost there. Okay. Yeah, looks like I'm going to be playing the guitar here shortly. I'll get that set up and bring up one of the songs, play one or 2 or 3 or who knows what. You never know how it's going to go. But I'll grab one. If you know the channel, if you have a guitar you want me to use, I can grab that one. But I was thinking I'll play the Schecter SLS Elite tonight, which is one that I really love. It's a beautiful guitar. Okay. Sweet. Miguel Medina. Yeah, and again, thanks, Miguel, for being on the stream. Really appreciate it. Appreciate it if you sub, if you like this kind of stuff. If not, no worries, no hurries. Flavors Vision's not blurry. What movies he's talking about? Well, we were talking about Night of the Comet as the one, like, you know, everybody's vaporized on Earth movie, and one guy left. And then the other one was Last Man on Earth, which is a comedy that also same kind of theme. I'd recommend them both. But if you want to laugh, Last Man on Earth. If you want one that's kind of interesting and in a very old 1980s campy way, definitely hit up that Night of the Comet. In fact, I'm going to try to find Night of the Comet here probably within a week or so and watch it with my youngest son. And you can see him on Eat Your Backyard if you want to see what he's up to when he was a little tiny guy eating cherries off the bush in the backyard. Yep. Okay, Tyler Shep Shred says, I did 2 streams with him. One was a silly one. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll tell you, that video you have with Abasi, I thought was just so cool. I think it's so neat that they get to see the influence that they're having on the next generation of guitarists. I really, really like that. I'll tell you, my oldest son, he has a strong interest in music, and he started to play guitar, but he got so into surfing that he's really never stuck with it. But recently he's told me, like, I think I want to get into that. But now he's, you know, going so hard trying to make money and save up and make a future for himself that he's really focused on that, which I get and deeply respect. I think I would just say I think this generation now has to work harder than any generations before, far more hard than my generation. You know, like they say, this is the first generation in American history that isn't guaranteed a higher standard of living than their parents, which I think is really depressing on some level. But what I see, like my kids and their friends, they are all working their tail off. Like they're going to school, they're working a job, they're doing, like, it's nuts. And a lot of them feel like, yeah, there's no way I can afford to buy a house. I'm like, oh man, that's a bummer. But yeah, hardworking. So anyway, I digress. Yeah, Tyler Shep Shred says, I've never seen a shark. Yeah, we've seen a lot of them. And when I got a drone and started to fly, I have a DJI drone that I use to, if you watch my music videos, you'll see I'm flying down at the end of my street in the ocean, over the ocean. And when I started to do that, it legitimately freaked me out because we've seen a lot of sharks, but what I realized was you in no way see most of the sharks. Like when you're flying over the ocean with the drone where I live, it's just like shark. There's so many sharks. I was like, oh my God. It really it freaked me out a little bit. Even with the bites and stuff, although I'm afraid of sharks. I don't want to be bitten by a shark. I had no idea there was that many. And then as you're flying over, you see that the sharks are swimming right under people surfing. They're swimming right in between people swimming. They're all over the place. And then I realized, well, yeah, you know, if they wanted to tag us, people would just be getting mauled all the time. And they're really not. Most of the time they're not. But if you're not lucky, you know, you get that bite. Here's the thing. If you're entering the ocean, you are part of the food chain. And that's just the way it is. And, you know, if you don't want to make that bargain, then you wouldn't go in. But there's certain things you can do to, you know, if you see one moving fast, and we sometimes, like Jack and I will go down the end of the street and we're like, oh, we're getting ready to go. And then we see a shark zip through bait, like they're feeding actively right at the end of the street. And that's the point where we go, nah, not today. We're not going to push our luck, you know, but then often we'll just go down the beach a mile, you know, and go in there and hope it doesn't happen. So yeah, kind of foolish, I guess, sometimes, but yeah, you're definitely part of the food chain. A lot of sharks. I've got a lot of shark videos on my surfing channel from the drone footage. My buddy Alex surfing at the end of the street, he fell into a pod of mullet with probably 15 sharks in it. And it was pretty intense. And after he got out, I go, man, did you see? He had no idea. They were all around him, big boys too. I mean, the big boys. When I say big boys, I mean like 7-8 foot sharks, 9 foot sharks. To me, that's huge. But yeah, maybe an aquarium. Yeah, that's my preferred place to see a shark, honestly. I think I'll stick to the pool. What kind of sharks? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. The majority of sharks that we see here are black tip sharks, bull sharks. There are things called fine tooth sharks. There are a lot of those out there, which are kind of medium sized sharks, like 3 to 4 foot, 5 foot sharks that are very common. They have nurse sharks, which are kind of shark that is in the bottom. Like if you go out and swim, there's some near shore like reef rocks that you can go and you'll see the nurse sharks like laying on the bottom there. They're just kind of stationary, but all the rest are moving. And most of the time, they're just moving. They're just kind of cruising down the beach, and you can tell they're not feeding. And by the way, these aren't great white sharks. These aren't like the kind of, but there are great white sharks here. But you know, I've never seen one, but they're very rare, and they're typically, I think, in much deeper water. But my buddies who go off and offshore fish, I have several of them that have seen big great white sharks like 10 miles off the beach, right off the beach here. So they're out there, but I think not as common. But mostly it's the bull sharks. There's also a lot of lemon sharks. They call them lemon sharks because they got a slightly yellow tint to their skin. But nurse sharks, a nurse shark is weird because they have their mouth like, you know, like a normal, like a typical shark would have like a mouth that opens like this, but a nurse shark almost has their mouth under. They're almost like a catfish, like their mouth is positioned down because they're bottom feeders. And they open their mouth up and like a largemouth bass or something, they like suck by opening their mouth up real quick, they suck the fish or the crab or lobster. They love to eat lobsters or spiny lobsters. They'll suck the thing in. So all sharks bite. Like, yeah, the thing is to go down and like pull the tail of a nurse shark. That's like a favorite thing to do when people go diving, and I think that's the dumbest thing ever. Because yeah, that thing spins around and gets a liking to you, or even just bites you in defense, and yeah, it's no good. And bull sharks are no bueno. They're bitey. They are bitey, but especially in New Smyrna Beach. That's the thing. If you're going to go to Ponce Inlet in New Smyrna Beach, just be aware you are likely to get much more likely to be bitten than anywhere else. I think they say it's the shark capital of the world, but my oldest son, he got into the shark registry with his bite. They actually sent him a letter. They registered his shark bite, but the vast majority of shark bites don't go in the shark registry. Like my youngest son, he didn't go in there and he got bitten. Most of the other guys I know that have been bitten, they weren't in the shark registry. But there are places that are renowned for sharks. There's a spot down in Sebastian Inlet called Munster Hole, and it's called Munster Hole for a reason. And that was the other place that got rammed by a shark, actually. Yeah, so I didn't know we were going to talk about sharks, but yeah, okay. All right, man. Yeah, Holt Spencer says, I'm going to get ready for bed. I'll message you, get your Gmail. I can move on some WAV files. Oh, sweet, man. Back and forth via Google Drive. That's good for you. That's good for me. Yeah, thanks for streaming. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for being on. Really appreciate it. Can you play No More Tears? Yeah, I actually don't know that song, but I could probably learn it and play it next time. Yeah, I'll take a note on that. Most of the stuff that I would play in terms of cover stuff would be like Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Hendrix. But what I'm going to do today... Yeah, and by the way, I am a huge Ozzy Osbourne fan. Without any doubt. And, Randy Rhoads. Holy moly. All right, yeah, let's play a little guitar. Why not? All right. Just get my stuff out of the way. I don't have things crashing down. All right, I'm going to jump up here and try to get organized real fast. I think I'm mostly good to go. Yeah, all right. All right, let's see what kind of trouble we can get into. It works. This is a Schecter SLS Elite. Really cool guitar, honestly. I might sing. I'm going to sing. Why not? Always a little nervous about singing. This guitar has active pickups, Fishman pickups. This is the first guitar I've had that has these active pickups, and I love them. For a certain kind of thing. Eee. Okay. Yeah, I've got this stuff. This is one of my original songs. Let's see here. Yeah, this is a song playing in the background. I call it Leviathan. Let me see. Let's stop it. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard of Delvin Lamar Organ Trio. It always pops up on my feed, but I love the Delvin Lamar Organ Trio. Not going to play any of that today. All right, which one? Which one? All right, I'm going to do this one. Painting Circles Across Infinity. This is one of my most, this is my most recent song. Let's see if I've got the, yeah, I don't really have a level set. I should be, I'm just going to play this 1976 song just to hear what the levels are like. Yeah, too low. This is a song I call 1976. Talked a lot about the 70s in this one. Tyler Shred says, have you ever played a Strandberg? I never have. and never have, but I've wanted to, for sure.
Dreams, my friend. I've traveled roads that have no end. I've stood on top of a snow-capped peak and swim against a raging sea. I've seen the sun so bright, the bluest sky. My God, I feel it all. There's no reason why. I made you just like you made me. Don't wanna hurt you like you're made of glass. The mighty tree thinks he is a branch. Baby, I just want to expand. Relax, baby, in the palm of my hand. It's all game of play for hide and seek, painting our circles across infinity. It's all perfect and as it should be. You built a prison to be set free. Even a pirate in his hardened heart cannot help but to play his part. I made you just like you made me. Don't wanna hurt you like you're made of glass. The mighty tree thinks he is a branch. Don't wanna hurt you like you're made of glass. The almighty tree thinks he is a branch. Even a saint tied to a burning stake can see it's all gonna be okay.
There you have it. I dared to sing. I dared to sing. Let me do one more. Thanks, Tyler.
Live 1,000 lives, what would you do? What would you do? If you could dream endlessly, where would you go? What would you know? Time is just an illusion, a trap for your mind, a trap for your mind. I will not forget that life is a bell tone, the strike then the rise, the noise then it dies. Could drill 1,000 lives, what would you do?
I do this.
What would you do? The flag or the wind, it's your mind in the end. There's no need to defend. Forget that life is a bell tone, the strike then the rise, noise then it dies.
Well, all right, everybody. I think I'm going to call it quits. Don't want to wake up the neighbors and all. But I really appreciate everybody being on the stream. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Looks like Tyler was busy moderating, and I appreciate it. Uh-oh. What's going on there? All killer, no filler. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I hope I see you back. Great night. And I hope everything goes well for you and yours. And peace, love, and happiness to the people in Southern California having to deal with such a horrible situation. I wish them a resolution to that situation as fast as humanly possible. So I appreciate all of you. Have a great night. See you at the next one tomorrow night. Yeah, by the way, great job, Tyler Chef Shreds, on moderating. Well done.